Just to let you guys know, the nickname of this car is the BreezeWay car. The BreezeWay car. The BreezeWay car. The BreezeWay car. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have officially arrived back in Southern Oregon after a successful 2022 Speedweek Northwest between Washington and Oregon. Hopefully you enjoyed all the content and welcome back to the channel. During our 7 races and 9-day stretch, we had 1 win, we had 6 top 5s, 7 top 10s, incredible results, and a 2nd place finish in the Speedweek points. And we were truly one of the best cars all week. We were just right behind Justin Sanders, who dominated the second half of it, winning 4 races in a row. And we did all of the 7 races in what is now known as the BreezeWay car here on the channel. And when we call it the BreezeWay car, we're referring specifically to the frame. That frame was sent to KPC during this previous off season. It was fixed, and then it sat in the BreezeWay at my father's work for the past 6 months. We were not planning on running it at all. We actually were just about to post it for sale. And then, well, 2022 happened. You know, our season, which has just been full of ups and downs, occurred, and we needed a frame to build a car to continue racing and to run this speed week that was coming up. So we grabbed the car out of the BreezeWay, brought it home, put all of our components on it, and we took it up to Skagit to start night number 1. And it was really, really good. A top 5 the first night, then we ran 2nd behind Trey Starks at the 10,000 to win Summer Nationals. Then night number 3, Sunset Speedway Park, I got my first ever Western Sprint Tour victory and dominated the 30-lap feature. So at one point was a frame that we struggled with kind of during 2021. I'm like, man, I don't really know if I like that car. All of a sudden, like, dang, this thing's actually rolling. Like, I know we're kind of doing some things differently, but this actually seems like a really strong piece. So we carried that speed from the first 3 nights into Cottage Grove and continued to show it. Ran 3rd the first night there, and then was leading the 2nd night, which would have been round number 5, but made a stupid mistake in lap traffic that totally cost me the win. And from that point on, when I made that mistake, the race car just never drove the same the rest of Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. So because there was a problem and the car needs to be repaired, we have to tear it down. And while we're doing that, I just kind of want to talk more and more about this problem and what I was experiencing with the BreezeWay car. Well, it worked really, really hard while it had the opportunity, but sadly, I am just about to take apart the BreezeWay car. Or after sunset, we named it the BreezeWay Bandit. Officially stripping this thing down to a bare frame. It needs to be repaired. And just looked at overall, it was so fast at the beginning of the week, which we talked about, and then we had a problem Wednesday, and then for the Marvin, it just never really handled the same, especially as the racetrack slickened off. The beginning part of the night, it was good. You know, we had good speed when the racetrack was more locked down, but at the same time, you know, that has a lot to do with package and just kind of holding your foot to the floor more and trying to put yourselves in the right spot. But once it slickened off and, you know, a lot more driver came into play and having your race car really good, it just wasn't good. And I always say it's a lot easier to take a car apart than it is to put it together. So I'm gonna at least get started on stripping this thing down. I might not have to strip it all the way for them to fix it, but we're at least gonna have to get, you know, the whole front end, rear end out, and probably most of the cockpit, the seat, so they can really work on that area that got damaged. So the BreezeWay car, or the BreezeWay Bandit, or the BreezeWay Bullet, whatever you guys want to call it, is officially down to a bare frame. This thing did its job. It got us through the 2022 Western Sprint Tour Speed Week, but now it's time to like take it into the doctor's office for a quick checkup and see what's wrong with it. Like most frames, when you look at it from a distance, everything appears to be okay from back here. But if you tip it here on its side, and get up close, you notice this bar, which I told you guys about earlier in the week, that broke and needed to be welded on both ends. And was pushed up from running something over. It may not be super pretty, it's a total racetrack weld, but I will say both sides did hold up, which did its job for what we thought was the best way to fix it at the time. And when it's back upright, you can also notice it there. So I'd be interested to know what you guys think in the comment section down below, but the facts of the situation are my car ran great at Skagit, great at Banks, great the first 2 nights of Cottage Grove. I feel like we were just kind of starting to get it better. And then Wednesday during the A-main event, I flew off the track, and I'm not sure if that's when it happened, but sometime during that race or the end of that night, I ran something over and that compromised that bar. And when the track was hooked up, it wasn't really noticeable. The car was a little more on the right rear than I would have liked, and then the first 2 nights at Grove. But then as the racetrack slickened off, the end of Friday, the end of Saturday for the 41 lap finale, my car just didn't drive good. It drove just like the end of that Wednesday feature when something felt off. I would go in the corner, I just didn't have stick, I didn't have drive. The car never really even leaned that much on the right rear, like wasn't getting drive either way. It wasn't like I felt left side down not driving. It didn't feel like I was leaning over on the right rear, not even being able to turn. It just felt like I was sliding across the track and I wasn't, you know, creating any speed. And I know that's just a little support bar, but that's just the situation at hand. All I know is that got damaged, and it's like it threw our whole setup a curveball or our whole race car. It made it way harder to make it go fast, especially around the conditions that we had in front of us. Now, I always talk about it, every car has a different personality. They all, you know, like to handle in their own ways, and you have to do different things to make them go fast, even if they're almost identical copies of each other. And I'm not gonna say specifics on the videos, but while we were scaling this car and while we were doing ride heights and everything, like, it was just way different in what we had to do to try to get our numbers for where we were wanting. Just didn't necessarily add up. It still went fast in some ways, but it also had its negatives and things that it liked to do kind of on its own. I talked about being a little bit hard on the right rear, and with problems on the right rear, that corresponded to some problems with the left front. We just kind of had to do things backwards and just different with this frame. Like I said, in most situations it still went fast, but once we started having problems, it just felt like we were chasing our tail and we couldn't really make anything work there at the end of our speed week. So the BreezeWay Bullet, we are gonna get it fixed and probably set it aside for a little bit. One of my frames from KPC that got fixed from the car that I started the year with is gonna be back soon. So I think we're gonna end up turning all the components off this one onto that one. And this thing might just have to go sit back in the BreezeWay at my dad's work. I don't know. We loved it at the beginning. A little bit less of a great relationship by the end of Speed Week, but it still did its job.